All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA props video. Going to be breaking down the top prop bets for the two-game slate on Monday. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, again, guys, typically speaking, I can't do a recap because a game is going on and we haven't seen the conclusion of a prop bet just yet, but we did just cash Evan Mobley for over his points of 17.5. Obviously, a lot of that was baked into Darius Garland potentially sitting in there, so I don't want to say we got lucky. That was an educated guess, and still, kind of liked his over there regardless, but that was the spot that we were getting to, and so that hit, kind of continuing a hot streak that we have been on, where we have now hit 7 out of our last 9 bets. We'll see what happens with Fred VanVleet, but obviously on a little bit of a hot streak. We'll see if that continues here on Monday. We're getting some good prop bets. I wouldn't say we're getting great prop bets, decent spots here and there. Let's go ahead and jump on into the game-by-game breakdown. And so looking at the first game, guys, we have Boston versus New York. And looking at the spot, the top prop bet that we have is Derek White to get under his fantasy score of 32.5. Now, it is worth calling out that Drew Holiday is expected back in this game, and Jaylen Brown is good to go in this game as well. And so with that, we can expect Derek White to take a slight reduction in his fantasy score and just his production and usage as well. So like usage wise, guys, with Drew Holiday on the court, we do see that Derek White takes about a 3% drop in his usage and his fantasy score goes down by about 1.5. Now with that 1.5 reduction in his average fantasy score, it does equal about 32.5. So a little bit concerning there. He does average 3 less points per 36, though, with Drew Holiday on the court as well. So worth calling out. He was on a little bit of a heater there, to close out the season. He has been playing extremely well, really, throughout the whole season. But it is an interesting line to call out. Like, let's look at his matchups here against New York, and he has gotten the over in 3 out of the 4 games as well. So that is concerning to me for sure, the fact that this one is popping up as much as it is. Now, again, with Drew Holiday back, I could see why we're being told to bet it, and New York should be a little bit of a more difficult matchup in comparison, but not a bet that I'm necessarily loving the fact that it's popping up as much as it is. I'll get some action to it, maybe not as much exposure as it would for a bet that is popping up as much as that one is. So from there, guys, we are getting one hammer bet here, which a hammer bet is basically a bet where it's checking all the boxes. We're being told to bet the over via the average sportsbook line. Then all the other data points that we have coming in are telling us to bet the over as well. Now, DVP-wise, it is a little bit of a difficult matchup, but at 30 points, rebounds, and assists there for Jaylen Brown, this is certainly going to be a decent spot. What's interesting is that FanDuel and DraftKings both have this at 29.5, and it's an interesting line because DraftKings has it at 29.5 as a push, which to me is a little bit shocking. We look at some of the other books, they also are having lines at 30.5, slightly favoring the over there. So I would expect, FanDuel and DraftKings to bump it up one, but to me, this is clearly pointing out that it's a decent edge there for Jaylen Brown to get over his points, rebounds, and assists there. Let's go ahead and take a peek at some other decent prop bets that we have. Look at some of the great prop bets that we have coming in. And it's going to be right on Jaylen Brown still. So decent amount of action you can get to for Jaylen Brown with his overs. Now, he hasn't really done extremely well against New York. That is a concern a little bit. But again, just calling out which bets we are getting that are some of the top prop bets. And so now let's go ahead and jump on into New York. New York, we are getting Karl Anthony Towns for his over points and assists. This is a bet that if I were to pull it up would also be considered a hammer bet. So again, a bet that's really just coming in, checking all the boxes. We scroll down here and we actually are getting a very interesting spot for those people that are betting on more traditional sports, like DraftKings, FanDuel, and whatnot. More specifically right here, DraftKings and Bovada. This is an arbitrage bet where it's the exact same line, and you can bet it both ways, and you're going to be profitable. So you could bet on Bovada, bet his under 22.5, and then you could bet his over on DraftKings because they're both plus numbers there, and it just shouldn't be happening. That's pretty crazy there. But regardless, the line that we're getting on PrizePicks right now at 22.5 is actually a little bit too low compared to really the average lines that we're getting in general. Now, the issue that we have is just kind of looking at the matchup, guys, in 2 games, okay, he didn't get that much minutes, 28 and 24 minutes. Obviously, in those 2 games, did not get the over. Now, in 2 games where he did get heavy minutes, he did get the over. So he is projected to get 37 minutes in this game. That is worth calling out. But the concern would be the fact that this is a 9-point spread. If it does end up being a game where, not everyone gets their minutes, which could be part of the reason as to maybe why Derek White's under fantasy score is popping up as much as it is, just as an FY. But like for Towns, if he doesn't get 37 minutes, then yeah, obviously it's going to be less likely for him to get this over. So it is baked into that. It's just, if it does end up being a blowout, 9 points is when I start to worry about it being a blowout. When does that blowout occur? And so, worth calling out. I'm still going to bet this one because, well, this is just one of the better bets that we're getting currently, and we kind of have to. Now, from there, guys, we're not getting any other like hammer bets for this matchup. So let's go ahead and just take a peek at some of the good bets great bets that we are getting. Sorry. Josh Hart for over 9 rebounds on PrizePicks is an interesting spot. All the other data points are telling us that he should be able to get to at least 9. That's basically the verdict here. We are getting some interesting lines here as well, where all of them are at 9.5, but they're favoring the under. So again, probably just going to get to 9. So far in this matchup, he has 50%, just like Towns there. Blowouts occur and whatnot. OG for over his points, rebounds, and assists is an okay spot, or his points and rebounds is an okay spot. For what it's worth, Towns potentially for over his fantasy score is a good spot as well. Really, again, with New York, and I don't think we necessarily need to worry about them losing that many minutes in the blowout. We know that they're going to get heavy minutes as well. But obviously, if it gets too big, like we saw maybe with the Clippers where they're just getting blown out, that's a little bit of concern. But some okay spots there for New York. All right, so looking at the next game, we have Denver versus OKC, which is one of the funner matchups, just obviously with the Russell Westbrook ties here. I'm kind of looking forward to this matchup. OKC does have the depth, but obviously you got Denver, who obviously has the experience. So it's certainly going to be an interesting matchup here for sure. You have the top two MVP candidates as well. Obviously, we know that SGA is going to win it already. And so a lot of interesting spots. And on top of that, we are getting some pretty solid prop bets on paper for this game. Let's go ahead and start with the top one, which is going to be Isaiah Hartenstein for over his fantasy score of 26. Now, the one concern is his VPM, his Vegas per minute projection, only projected to get 25 minutes. And so if that happens, then he could end up getting the under. That's the one concern that we have coming in data point wise. But average sportsbook line would have it closer to 27.7. Projection data closer to 28.5. He averages over that as well. I'm actually curious, what has he done thus far this season against Denver? Type in Denver, has split thus far. So 26, and that's funny. Okay, so the game that he got 26 minutes got the over. The game there he had 31 minutes, did not get the over there. Interesting there, but again, data is liking the over here, so I think we could get there. Another one, Jalen Williams, the good one. We are actually being told to bet on his under fantasy score via the average sportsbook line. Okay, the average sportsbook line has that 37.6, which is an interesting spot because all the other lines are telling us to bet the over. It is a decently high scoring game as well at 224.5 for the over and under. So I want to naturally just be betting the overs there because it is a good or high scoring game. This is a spot where I'm kind of looking at this. I'm just going to assume with him, we're going to get more lines that are coming in from different books, and honestly, probably public money coming in. Wanted to bet on some overs for Jalen Williams and probably wanted to do that more. I might wait. We are seeing some different line or some different outcomes for him in this matchup throughout the season split. I would rather bet the over. If this was telling us to bet the over, I would be much more happy to do that. So although it has a 55% chance to hit, it's definitely going to be like Derek White. I'll probably still bet it, just won't get as much high volume to it. Another one, we got Jokic again for his under fantasy score. We have been seeing this a decent amount thus far this postseason, and it's just because he's a little bit too high. I think people are just naturally wanting to bet on his overs a little bit more. But looking at it, guys, this is a higher scoring game, so we do have to factor that in there as well. We'll take a peek at what he has done thus far against OKC this season. So it has really crushed in 3 of the games thus far. And if you look at it, it does seem like a little bit of a better matchup for Jokic in this one than it was for him in the last round, which sounds a little bit strange to say. From there, we do have Russell Westbrook for over 4.5 rebounds, which is one that I like. He has been 4 for 4 thus far in this matchup this year. This one seems like a pretty solid bet. Interesting that FanDuel and DraftKings are kind of valuing it as a push, whereas BetMGM, ESPN, Bovada are giving us it as more as a good bet. This is one that I think I will be going out of my way to target. From there, we got Jamal Murray for over his fantasy score. Does draw a difficult matchup DVP-wise, but still, he is someone that has gained heavier minutes recently. He got 40 in the last 2 matchups, 38 as well, so interesting there, kind of split. But this is another one of those spots where if Jokic is getting his under fantasy score, it is going to be much more likely for Jamal Murray to get his over fantasy score. But what we're going to notice here, guys, is we are getting plenty of solid prop bets in this game. Let's take a peek at the hammer bets that we're getting in this game. We got 2 Westbrook for over his points and assists. Okay, so that kind of echoes maybe why, wow, geez, 14.5. Interesting. Compared to the underdog line and average sportsbook line there, guys. Okay, we're only getting ESPN bet for that so far. So again, that goes into the small sample size that I mentioned. Once we get more coming in, probably going to hit, but projecting at 27 minutes. And if he does that, obviously, pretty good line there for him. Jamal Murray for over his points and assists. This kind of points to why his over fantasy score is probably being one that's promoted to us. Has been playing better as of recent as well. So if you want to get to those 2, pretty good bets there. And we're getting pretty good prop line differences. So a lot more bets, I would say, in this game rather than the earlier game. All right, so getting into the 9 to 5 bet of the day here for this one. Doing a 5 slip bet. Going with the Derek White one for under his fantasy score. Don't exactly love that one. If you guys don't want to get there, I get it. Again, not going to be a high volume bet for me. From there, Isaiah Hartenstein for over his fantasy score 26. That was a bet that was popping up. And then taking advantage of some of the hammer bets that we were getting. Jamal Murray for over his points and assists. And then Karl-Anthony Towns for over his points and assists as well for 22.5. You could also do the same thing there for Russ Westbrook for points and assists. I actually like the rebounds one a little bit more. I think that's a slightly better edge for us there. That's going to do it for this video. If you guys want access to the cheat sheet that you saw in this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com, get access to the tools all on the site for just $10 a month. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so before. Thanks for watching. Good luck with all your bets. And as always, let's keep cashing.